What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another episode of Transfer Watch on Fantasy Football Scout. So in this video, we go through some of the most popular transfers in and most popular transfers out every single week and decide whether you should be buying, selling, avoiding, all that kind of stuff. And there again is a lot of transfers this week. The market is absolutely insane with the amount of transfers in and transfers out. There's lots of knee-jerking going on. So we're going to talk about 4 of the top players. If you do enjoy the video, please do give it a like and hit subscribe if you haven't already. We're very close to 50,000 subscribers. It'd be awesome to hit that today. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that button. Let's jump into it. So Werner up first, who's been transferred out by 150,695 people already after game week 2. That's all after already being sold quite heavily in game week 1 as well. I'm not sure how he hasn't fallen to 9.4 million yet, but I'm sure that's going to happen this week. And you can see why, right? 2 games, there's a lot of excitement about Chelsea pre-season, for myself included, and just 1 assist in the first 2 games. Now, if you look at the games, there's reasons behind that, and maybe we should be looking at holding him, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the first game against Brighton were probably the better team. Havertz played on the right, and Werner played through the middle. Now, they did change that. Frank Lampard did change that for game week 2 against Liverpool. Played Havertz as kind of like a false 9, and then Werner played on the left. But because of the red card, Havertz got pulled off, and then Werner was kind of just chasing shadows in the second half. Didn't really have too many good chances apart from the penalty that he won. And obviously, Jorginho didn't put that away after converting the one in game week 1. Now, Jorginho actually has a pretty good record, so I think anyone that thinks Werner's suddenly going to be on penalties, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I think Jorginho scored something like 21 in 23, so he's got a pretty good record. The thing with Werner is it's hard to kind of judge Chelsea on the first 2 games, but they do have West Brom next, and that is a pretty big game, considering they've just conceded 5 goals against Everton. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Everton, they played against 10 men for a lot of that, and I get that, but they came close early on. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when we talk about another player that's being heavily transferred in. And the 2 goals they scored were also before the red card as well. So there's nothing to say they wouldn't have gone on to score a couple more. And this is Chelsea as well. I know Ziyech and Pulisic are probably not going to be available for West Brom. We'll have to see what Lampard says. I think the best bet we can hope for either of them is to be on the bench and maybe get some minutes. But it is going to be a bit of a game changer for them. And after that West Brom game, it's Palace at home and Southampton at home. So Werner, if he's playing on the left, could be up against Kyle Walker-Peters. We've just seen Son do amazingly against Southampton. Not to say they won't tighten up a bit, but Werner's got the kind of pace to get in behind as well. So for me, he is a hold for now. I'm a little bit worried about Chelsea, but I just don't think we've had enough time to see them. So if you've got him, I wouldn't be selling him. Would I be buying him? I still think it's West Brom. I don't think it's the worst buy either. Surely there's points in that for plenty of the Chelsea players. So Aubameyang up next. He's had 222,464 transfers out. And I don't think this one was really surprising. Everybody has had this Aubameyang transfer in their head since the start of the season. Game week 3, switching to a Man City player, job done. So I don't think it's too surprising. And obviously he hasn't performed quite how people expected. To be fair to him, he hasn't done a lot wrong apart from being priced at 12 million. He got 1 goal already, 1 assist in the opening 2 games. That's 2 attacking returns, same as Mane. Granted, Mane was 2 goals, so a bit better for the points. But he's 2 games, 2 returns. If he did that throughout the whole season, he'd almost be essential. The problem is we expect more for 12 million, and he isn't an easy route into those Man City players. So the key question really is not should he go, because I think, yes, he is a sell for me. He's got Leicester, Liverpool, City and Man United all to play in the next 5 fixtures, which is tough for anyone, even Aubameyang. No matter what you think about Arsenal, whether Arteta's improved them a bit, they are tough fixtures, and I think he can be sold. The key question really is, who do we sell him for? Because originally the talk was all about Sterling and De Bruyne, and it probably will be to a certain extent. But now we know that Aguero is potentially going to miss 1 to 2 months out. That brings Jesus into play. So I'm not saying obviously you go from Aubameyang to Jesus because they play in different positions. But instead of going to like Sterling or De Bruyne, if you've got a cheap player up front, you could go down to like a Mahrez, or a Son. And that might give you enough money to upgrade someone like Adams or Mitrovic, whoever it might be. Not saying you 100% want to get rid of him this week, but it will give you the money to then bring Jesus in instead, who might play or should play regular minutes. Now, there is all this talk about whether Sterling's going to play false 9, etc., and it could happen. Let's see what happens against Wolves. But last season, back in the last season, Aguero was injured. Jesus played most of those games and played up to 90 minutes in some of them as well. So I think Jesus is quite a good option. And I don't think it's too knee-jerk to go to Son. We're going to talk about him in a minute. But prioritising him over Man City players, I think a lot of it comes down to captaincy. If you're not captaining the likes of Sterling or De Bruyne much over the next few weeks, maybe it is a better idea to spread the cash around. But either way, Aubameyang 100% a sell for me. So the Everton bandwagon, no surprise, has continued. I could have put Calvert-Lewin into this video, I haven't, but he's been transferred in by over 400,000 people. Probably not surprising when you score a hat-trick. That's now 4 goals in 2 games for him. So he's been great. He's up to 7.2 million. But James Rodriguez is the one I wanted to talk about today. And I do think he has the chance to make a mockery of that £7.5 million price tag. I'm not quite sure how he hasn't gone up in price, but he should do over the next few days, I would assume. And a lot of people I saw saying, well, it was just Spurs in the first game. Let's see how they get on. Now it's, oh, it was just West Brom in the second game. Let's see how it gets on. But that's the whole point of FPL, is targeting these easier fixtures, and they still have some to come. Palace away, Brighton at home, Southampton away. Now, granted, Brighton have actually started off okay. I know they conceded 3 against Chelsea, but they were probably a little bit unlucky to concede an absolute worldie from Reece James in that kind of compiled it to get to 3 goals. Nothing against Newcastle. And Palace have obviously started off okay as well. But on paper, these are 3 pretty good fixtures. And I do think Rodriguez, like I said, has a good chance of making a mockery of that 7.5 million. I looked at his last 4 seasons underlying stats, so non-penalty XG and or expected assists as well. So this is per 90 minutes. And I do think he's going to get a good 80 to 90 minutes most games, as long as he can be rested in kind of cup competitions and stuff like that. So last 4 seasons, this is XA and XG combined. So 4 seasons ago 0.65, 3 seasons ago 0.78, last season 0.58. So it came down slightly, but that's still very good. That's still potentially over a return every other game. And so far this season he's on 0.51. So a little bit behind the last 3 seasons, but not enough to be worried about whether his performances continue. If he keeps that up, 0.51 XGI per 90, expected goal involvement per 90, that's pretty decent. And let's not forget, this team, at least the midfield, has only just been put together as well. So you'd hope that they would gel even more and more as time goes on. So still getting used to the team, still getting used to the league. I fully agree with this one. I still think he's a buy. I don't think it's a massive knee-jerk. I think, like I mentioned earlier, there was a corner early on which Calvert-Lewin had his head onto, just past the post. That could have been another assist. The amount of times James Rodriguez is looking for the runs that Luka Dean and Richarlison in behind is incredible, and he has the ability to find those passes as well. So 7.5 million, I know there's a lot of obviously transfers going on, people looking in to bring Man City mids, Son, etc. But Rodriguez is a full-on buy for me. I don't see any reason to ignore him with those fixtures that are coming up. So when I saw in the first game Calvert-Lewin had a hat-trick, I thought that would be player of the week. And then Son goes and scores 4 goals, matches Antonio from the back end of last season. Absolutely incredible if you owned him. And he is probably the most knee-jerked player so far. Game week 1 finishes, he gets transferred out enough to go down to 8.9 million. Flash forward, he plays, gets 4 goals, and suddenly he's now back to 9 million as well. So everyone that kept him, fair play to you, because not only did you eat a price drop, he's then immediately gone back to his 9 million, which is absolutely fantastic. So he may not get 4 goals every single game. In fact, he may not even get 4 goals over the next 4 games, but I do think he is a good buy still. I said last week to people that were kind of asking me about holding him, he had good fixtures: Southampton, Newcastle, West Ham in the next 4. And now if you look at it as well, so next 6 fixtures include Newcastle, West Ham, Burnley, which is away, so that could be a little bit tough, but they've just conceded 4 to Leicester. Brighton and West Brom. Now, obviously, a lot of this will depend on injuries and stuff. Like Burnley had a few defensive injuries. I've just spoken about Brighton as well. But as a next 6 fixtures, to include those 5 games, with only Man United, the tricky one, in there, I think it's a good buy still. I don't think it is a massive knee-jerk. Obviously, some people have seen 4 goals and just got him straight in. And yes, we know he's not going to score 4 over the next, every single game. Otherwise, he'd be absolutely ridiculous. But I do think there's potential in that. And one of the things that's interesting is you have to do a little bit less defensive work. And obviously, Southampton did play over high line, and other teams might not do that. They may sit deep. But I think as Spurs transition to potentially playing like a 4-3-3, they've got a new left back, they've got Doherty on the right back, they can really just fly forward. And if they've got 3 midfielders, that keeps them a little bit tighter. It may mean that Son doesn't have to do quite as much defensive work. We've seen other people talk about kind of playing that 4-2-3-1. He has to drop back quite a bit. He plays quite wide. We didn't really see that for a lot of the game against Southampton. And maybe Mourinho will realise that Son is their best player and he should get them more involved. Obviously, Harry Kane had a massive game as well, but Son is a lot cheaper and he's a midfielder, so he's the one that a lot of people are going for. He'd be the one that I would. And again, I think this is a buy. I don't think it is a knee-jerk, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Knee-jerks are not always bad, and Son is definitely not one of those. So that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoy it, please do give it a like, much appreciated as always, and try and help us get to 50,000 subscribers. I think it can be done today if enough of you subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these players. So for me, Werner is a hold, Aubameyang is a sell, and I think Son and Rodriguez are both buys. Let me know if you disagree, and let me know which players you're looking at bringing in ahead of Game Week 3. We'll be back tomorrow with some more videos. Until then, see you later, everyone.